And victims advocates are pushing for a law that would force people accused of domestic violence to surrender their guns, this prior to charges or conviction. Now, they say 59% of domestic violence related homicides in Utah are committed with a firearm. ABC4's Brittany Johnson joins us in studio.
Well, Emily, it's called an extreme risk protective order. ERPO laws have been around for over 20 years and do exist in 17 states. However, Utah is not one of them. Victims advocates are hoping to change that this legislative session. Since 2000, 42% of Utah's homicides have been domestic violence related. 1/3 of domestic violence perpetrators in Utah die by suicide after committing the homicide. And less than 2% of Utah's domestic violence homicide victims had a protective order at the time of their murder. Key points presented from the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition to a committee on Capitol Hill.
We need laws that help protect families and help them sooner rather than later.
Jen Oxborough, executive director of the organization, wants lawmakers to pass an extreme risk protective order bill during the upcoming legislative session. ERPO allows for a judge to order the temporary removal of firearms from a person who possesses a dangerous threat to themselves or others.
We're not trying to take people's guns away, we're trying to improve safety.
Oxborough says it'd be used in the most at-risk cases.
These are the ones that show up as really devastating murders. These are people who are threatening to go shoot up, a mall or a movie theater. These are people who are perpetrating really awful acts of violence and terror in front of schools.
Opponents believe an ERPO bill makes it too easy for a potential victim to get a protective order. But Oxborough says the burden of proof the petitioner would have to provide to the court is actually really high.
It's not anyone that gets angry at you that could go and make this accusation. And in fact, making a false accusation when you're seeking a protective order is a felony offense, and it says that right on the form.
In order for the bill to be effective, Oxborough tells me it has to pass with an ex parte process, which requires the respondent to surrender his or her firearms and ammunition to the law enforcement officer who serves the order pending a hearing.
We need real policies that work.
President Donald Trump is currently pushing for a bipartisan federal ERPO bill that would encourage states to pass red flag laws and provide funding for those that do.
All right. Well, Brittany, obviously law enforcement's on the front lines responding to these situations. What do they think about a bill like this?
So we're getting some insight tonight from Chief Gary Giles. He's with the Orem City Police Department. Now, these are his own views, not the views of the association. But in a nutshell, he tells us this tonight, that he's pro-guns rights, but he has also seen many people take their own lives or the lives of others. Some of those situations, he says, could have been prevented, but their hands were actually tied at the time. So, Emily, he does support this. Even the ex parte portion, that's the key part there, as long as the wording leaves discretion to police officers so they do not get forced into no-win situations, such as having to force their way into a home to remove weapons from someone who was only a danger to themselves. And he provided us with an example tonight. Recently, he said in Maryland, officers went to a home to confiscate weapons under a red flag law and were forced to shoot the suspect when he presented a threat to them. He says those are the exact situations they are hoping to avoid. But in all, he does support this law.
A law like this. Okay, Brittany, thank you so much for looking into this. And we always want to take this opportunity to get the information out there that if you or someone you know is a victim of domestic violence, there is help out there. You can call the Domestic Violence Coalition, the number there at your screen, 1-800-897-LINK.